Hi, I'm Patrick Dunnican. At Gibbons, we believe that citizens need to be informed about the complex issues that affect their lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons PC, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. The Turrell Fund, supporting right from the start NJ. International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825. Rowan University, educating New Jersey leaders, partnering with New Jersey businesses, transforming New Jersey's future. And by Delta Dental of New Jersey. Everyone deserves a healthy smile. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ and by NJ Advance Media.
Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio in beautiful Brick City. That's Newark, New Jersey. We are honored to be joined by the Speaker of the Assembly, Craig Coughlin, who represents the 19th District. Actually, you represent the entire state. Good to see you,
Well, thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here. First and foremost, I represent the 19th District.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. We're doing this program after the governor's budget address. We'll be seen after. What do you like? What don't you like about it?
Well, look, I think there's a number of things in the governor's budget that jump off the page that are really the product of a lot of good hard work on his part. There's about $1.6 billion in savings from all different sources, through Medicare savings and through Medicaid savings, I should say, through departmental savings and through work that he has done to reduce health care costs.
Let's be clear. You're talking about the governor's negotiations with the Communication Workers of America, a major public employee.
Well, those and others, apparently. I haven't seen...
On health care costs of public employees, state employees.
Correct. But
real savings.
Real savings.
Some say, oh, come on, it's a drop in the bucket. You say?
I say $1 billion is real money. And that those are going to be the savings that we can hopefully carry forward throughout the future. It reduces the starting point. Medical benefits cost is a constant challenge, right? Year in and year out, everyone who pays for their own understands that. Everyone who runs a business understands that. It's a constant challenge each and every year to try and reduce costs. So this is something that I think, when you ask me what I like, that's one of the things I like.
You like the New Jersey Transit investment?
Well, look, I think
more state money to the New Jersey Transit budget.
I do, and last year we relied on a diversion from a couple of sources. This is in there as its own way. I think we should look at whether we want to add some more money to that, but that we're going to have to work through the budget as we get going. It was presented last Tuesday, so it's less than a week
ago. As we do this program, absolutely.
Right. Sorry to date that on you.
No. We actually put the date up. Yeah. We always disclose. It's all right.
But so the budget committee is just going through that process. This process will take months. There'll be public hearings, departmental hearings with the budget committees. Things will inevitably change as they did last year. Last year, if you recall, we got two decisions that were positive, had a positive impact. One by the Supreme Court, which allowed us to have sports gambling, and another by the Supreme Court, which allowed us to collect online taxes. Now, I don't know what this year will bring. Hopefully, it'll bring positive news. Although I'm not aware of any cases like that.
Let me ask you, Mr. Speaker, the tone and tenor of the conversation, the negotiations, which haven't really begun in earnest, between you, Governor Murphy, and the Senate President Steve Sweeney, how do they feel different already, even though we don't know, as we do this program, how things are going to play out?
Well, I think that because we are in a much better starting place than we were last year.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that look, the legislature's position last year was we didn't want to raise taxes, and there were two kinds of taxes. There were sales tax and income tax and thing. So I'm been insistent that we don't include increases in broad-based taxes like income and sales. There's no sales tax in this proposal. A number of the things that we wanted to include as legislative asks in our business, they're called, some of which were programmatic, are now included in the governor's budget. For example, things like homestead rebate, things like increased funding for charity care, things like low-income housing and inclusion
they're
for
in
that,
the budget.
for the art. Yeah, they're in the budget. And that's why we're at when we say we're at a much better starting point, and the tenor is much better. And of course, there's the savings that the governor was able to achieve. Now,
Let's talk about the other side of it.
yeah, the other side of it is,
Put the millionaire's tax on the table. The governor said, look, last year I went to the $5 million figure. That's what happened. If you earn more than $5 million, I want you to pay more income tax. This year, $1 million. You earn more than that, you should pay your fair share as he sees it. Talks about a fair tax, you say?
well, I say that this is something, as I said from the outset, I've been insistent that we not include increases in broad-based taxes like the income tax. I think the first thing we always have to do, and I think it's something that's true of every family in New Jersey, every business in New Jersey. It's the same process when you say, where do we start off with? And well, where we start off with is making sure we're spending our money wisely, making sure that we look to find savings wherever we can and however we can. And I think that's where we start off right now. So I understand the governor has to make a budget that's due in June, and this is his first chance. Now we'll take a look at the budget from our perspective. We'll have the benefit of knowing some things that the governor can only project. For example, April 15th is tax day. We don't know yet where the income tax revenue will be for the state. The governor can only project out. He has to do it constitutionally, has to do his budget address earlier. We'll have the advantage of looking at that. So what I'm saying is we need to start off looking for places to save rather than counting on giving
sorry
ourselves
for
a raise.
interrupting again,
That's
Mr.
okay.
Speaker. Is the millionaire's tax, from your perspective, I hate this expression in Washington, state capitals across the nation, is it dead on arrival?
Well, look, I think that when you look at the kind of things that we have been able to do in achieving savings, then I think that we need to look at that in totality. So there's not going to be an easy way to go off and find additional savings to do it. I think as we go through the process of understanding where the people of New Jersey are at, understanding where we're at departmentally, and seeing what else changes, then I think we'll look at that as we get to June. It's months away, Steve.
I hear you, and we'll continue that conversation. But I want to ask you this. Your office, if I'm not mistaken, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, has put out a statement on the issue of legalization of marijuana. I'm not going to get into the weeds, excuse the expression.
Pun intended.
No, it was not. It was not. It was not.
Okay.
We don't know what's going to happen with it. But for those who are wondering, why consider the prospect, the possibility of putting the question of legalizing marijuana/cannabis as it's described in the legislation out to voters? What is the rationale for that, if that were to happen?
To put it out to voters?
To let voters decide.
Well, we're trying to do it legislatively.
You're trying to do that.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen, could it go the other way?
Well, sure, it could. I mean, I think at some point, if you, I believe that there's reasons to do this. I was last to the party, governor and Senate
Yeah, you were
president
not one of the first ones out there
not.
when Senator Scutari talked about this. You're not like, put me in there.
Yeah.
You did not.
No. I tried to do for most things, that most bills we have, but to go through what I like to call a thorough and thoughtful process. And so I've looked at this, and then I've gone out to Colorado and talked. I didn't just go talk to the marijuana industry. I met with the sheriff of Arapahoe County. I went to pediatric emergency rooms and talked to the docs there. I went to talk to cops on the street and a business administrator.
And your conclusion?
My conclusion is that this, A, is a real industry, and B, that the benefits of doing the things that I think this bill will accomplish outweigh the detriment. And let me tell you why I think that's good. A, we do an awful lot of social justice in this bill. We make sure that people who are largely, who have been overwhelmingly adversely affected relative to other people.
Sure.
Kids who look like my kids don't get treated
A lot of disparity
better.
between
Right.
blacks and whites,
Exactly.
rich and poor.
So there's that. There's the opportunity to create a new industry, and this bill makes sure that regular New Jerseyans have a real chance to get there. The other thing, and I think this is as importantly, is we need to recognize that if we continue to do the same thing, we don't change anything, we're not winning the war. If the goal is to stop people from using marijuana, well, we're not doing it this way. This changes the status
They
quo.
gave me 1 more minute, so I'm going to take full
sorry.
advantage. No, don't be sorry. We're glad to have you. The tax incentive, we are definitely not getting to the weeds on that, but I want to ask you overall. The Economic Development Authority,
Yes.
tax incentives,
Yes.
whether it's in Newark, where we are, Trenton, Jersey City, wherever, down in Camp, wherever. Overall, a good thing?
Overall, a good thing, yes, and I think everybody agrees with that. I think the governor agrees with that, and the Senate president agrees with that, and I have. And I think we can point to places like Camden, for example, where they've had a very positive effect. Now, what the governor, the audit revealed that there may have been some lack of management, lack of oversight, or mismanagement that was done by the controller, and that may well be. So we changed that because we can't waste a dollar. We ought not do it. We have to make sure that the things that the legislature put in effect to try and drive, be an economic driver, stays in place. But which programs, in and of itself, if the program didn't fail necessarily, the management may have. Whether that's right or wrong, the governor has advanced several proposals. We'll check
Real
them
quick
out.
on this. We're doing a series called Right from the Start NJ, looking at the issues facing infants and toddlers. Is the state doing enough to protect our most vulnerable, youngest kids?
Well, I think we can always do more. We have a package of bills that look at infant mortality, and we're going to get that passed right now. So I think we're going to do a better job.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Do not let it be the last time.
I promise.
Okay?
All right.
That's the Speaker. I'm Steve Adubato, and we'll be right back right after this.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to welcome our good friend back again. She is Michele Siekerka, President, CEO of New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Good to see you, Michele.
Always a pleasure.
We'll be talking about the fiscal matters in just a second. Your favorite topic.
Absolutely.
Innovation, Future of Innovation, a series we're doing.
Yeah.
The governor talks about the innovation economy in New Jersey. How do you define the innovation economy?
Well, let me say that we have long held true at BIA. We want to see the state reclaim its stature as the innovation state. In fact, that's our big, audacious goal, which is bigger than BIA, right? So we wake up every day, how are we a part of that? But we know it's more than just what we can be a part of. So it's about the right talent. It's about attracting investment dollars. It's about creating innovation ecosystems around our higher ed institutions. It's a game changer, and we need to get back there because once we had it.
It's interesting. This, by the way, two things. One, we are media partners with the organization, and this publication has a lot of good information on business activities in the state, New Jersey business. But this Indicators of Innovation report, why is this report relevant to the conversation we're having about the future of innovation?
So we stepped back and we wanted to study and make sure we had data to show how do we move the needle on innovation. So we studied 12 indicators that lead to an innovation state. And
12 indicators.
12 indicators. And the 12 indicators are across capital, people, and business. And there are things like how do you attract venture capital to your state, R&D dollars. What about your talented workforce? Where do your higher ed institutions rank nationally in terms of research institutions?
What would that have to do with innovation, the higher ed piece?
Oh, because innovation ecosystems traditionally, predominantly, are around research institutions. Absolutely. If you think about where are people going to be drawn, number one, research institutions, they attract R&D money from the federal government, they attract venture capital, and then you spur innovation out of our research institutes. So companies will look to get into an ecosystem around the community of where a higher ed institution is that's doing really great stuff. So now you have students, you have talent, you have people with PhDs, you have people studying STEM, and they're all part of the ecosystem.
Science, technology, engineering and math. So where are we doing well and where are we not doing well in terms of these indicators for innovation, innovation?
So we measured New Jersey comparatively to 7 states in our region. We're in the middle of the pack on most of the things, which isn't good. Today, right now, the Boston area is really eating our lunch. And you've seen the growth of innovation up in that area. The attraction.
Is that a Harvard MIT thing?
It is, absolutely, because what you have is you have a cluster and you have that ecosystem that I'm talking about. You have these incredible higher ed institutions that are attracting companies to come and form around them. You have the best and the brightest students wanting to be there, and then those are the employees that work with these companies. It all makes sense. And then what you have also is you've created a vibrant community there. It's a live, work, play region, and that's what we need to start to coalesce back here in New Jersey.
So the other part of this that you've talked about extensively is that I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but there are some challenges we have in being the innovation state we want to be, and you often say it has to do with taxation policy.
Well, it does. So let me be clear. The 12 indicators, we could move the needle on every single one of those, but that's not going to do it if we don't address the structural deficiencies we have in the state of New Jersey. And that's property tax, that's pension, that's our long-term obligations.
When you say pension, you're talking the public employee
Yes.
pension and healthcare situation.
Yes, let's talk about our long-term debt obligation in the state of New Jersey. It has increased 382% over the last 10 years. That is staggering. Staggering, $280 billion of long-term debt on the state of New Jersey. That same time, our revenues have only increased 24%, and our expenses increased 35%. This is basic economics. Those numbers don't add up. That is not sustainable.
But the governor, who is driving and talking about this innovation economy, has also said, you know what? We do need to get costs under control. And he go back to the pension, the healthcare situation for public employees. Is it not a fact that the governor reached a significant agreement with the Communication Workers of America, who represent a significant number of state employees, on reducing the cost of healthcare benefits?
It's a start. We commend the start. It's not enough. And it can't just
What would be enough?
Well, there are studies out there today that talk about how we can move the whole plan from a platinum to a gold.
Explain that to people.
It's the cost. So it's the benefit and the cost. Today, we have been paying for a platinum plan that has a high level of value. You can move that to a gold that still has a high level of value for less dollars. And you think about what's going on across corporate America. All my members, they're challenged every day on health care in the state of New Jersey. They have to make plan design changes every year. We could do more in plan design that'll bring even more savings. And on retiree health care is key. In this particular area, this idea of going from platinum to gold and retiree health care. But even more important, and there's a study out there, Byrne-Healy, that talks about pension reform. I am not looking to even suggest that we do not owe an obligation to our state workers. They work hard, they work tireless.
That promise has been made, that commitment
promise has been
made,
and that commitment must be kept. But to continue to do the same thing over and over again, I think Einstein said, right?
Expect a different outcome.
And we don't, so we need to change the future of what the pension looks like for the future state workers. We need to move away from defined contribution and talk about the idea of everybody more like a 401k, but it has a different, different number when you're talking about government workers.
Time we have left. Millionaire's tax. The
Not
governor's
good.
proposed it.
Not good.
That quick?
Not good for the
You
state
won't
of
even
New Jersey.
consider it?
No new tax. Read my lips. No new taxes
Well, I
in New
know
Jersey
I heard that
today.
back in the 80s.
Yes.
But don't you need more revenue
No.
in the state in order to fund many of the programs that a lot of us, whether it's universal pre-K or more access to college or fixing New Jersey transit, don't we need that revenue?
We need to prioritize our revenue today. We need to go back. Look, safety net programs, number one. We need to reprioritize where we put our money. We cannot year over year continue to increase our spending in the state of New Jersey. I just told you. Our long-term obligation, $280 billion. It's not a sustainable model. We need to reel in our spending and prioritize our spending.
Michele Siekerka is the president and CEO of New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Thank you for offering your perspective on this. And folks can check out the website at BIA to find out more. Thank you, Michele.
Thanks, Steve.
Well said. I'm Steve Adubato. It's the State of Affairs, and we'll be right back right after this.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
One of the best journalists you're going to find in this state, we have it right here, Anjalee Khemlani, managing editor of ROI-NJ. By the way, for those who do not know what ROI-NJ is, tell them.
Return on Information. It's a statewide business publication.
Anjalee, let's get right into the fact that we're doing this program a week after the governor's budget address. It'll be seen after that. The issues still matter. The governor is not going to change on this one. He said, we need a millionaire's tax. $5 million last year. Going to increase taxes this year, $1 million. Why is that such a huge issue?
It's a huge issue for the business community because you're not just talking about people who are wealthy, you're talking about job creators in the state. And that's what the biggest pushback that you're going to see from them. And they're pretty adamant about that. So you're talking about startup companies, you're talking about people who are part of the ecosystem, right, of the state. And so if you have more people who are being taxed and more of that money is going towards the state, they're just not going to be as philanthropic. They're not going to be as, ready to put that money into other parts of the state.
We just had the Speaker of the House, Craig Coughlin, on, and he said, and also the Senate President said, no, we're not for this. There are certain aspects of the governor's budget we like. This one we do not. Do you buy into the argument, and by the way, John Bramnick, the Assembly Minority Leader, came on State of Affairs and said, we're going to lose more and more people who earn $1 million up to Florida, where there is no income tax. Do you buy it?
I think everyone has seen this happen. Whether or not it happens in droves or it's just anecdotal is what we have to wait and see.
Is it relevant? Even if it's anecdotal, is it relevant?
Of course it's relevant. It's relevant because you're going to be losing the higher income people, and then the burden shifts to the middle class and lower class of the state.
But the governor is arguing that this is tax fairness, and what you described just then didn't sound fair. If it's,
well,
but that's not the governor. But hold on, that's not the governor's intent. To push the tax burden on the middle class and those who earn less, right?
His assumption, I'm assuming, and this is just based on what I've heard, is that we're not going to see this outmigration. The outmigration part is a myth. And even if we do, there's just the way that he was able to sort of speak to the corporate community. And I understand that he had one-on-one meetings with some of them to just sort of explain and balance out that issue from last year's budget. So I don't know if that happens this year as well. I don't know if it's they've taken an internal poll of all the millionaires and asked them whether or not they're okay with this if they're not going to leave. Who knows? By
the way, as I said before, the ROI website will be up again because Anjalee has written many articles on this budget, and it's way more than just the millionaire tax. Can we do innovation for a second?
Sure.
We're doing a series on the future of innovation. 2 initiatives. There's a Hoboken Energy Initiative. What is that, and why is it relevant to folks outside of Hoboken?
It's relevant because it's an interesting new plan. So the municipal buildings are going to be running off of all clean energy only. They stopped buying energy from PSE&G, which, as we know, is the largest energy provider in the state, and they're going to be buying it from a third party and buying outside of the state energy. And so that's a really big move for a city, right, to just be dependent on non-state sources. And if it's replicated, then it could actually hurt the energy companies in the state.
But we have to observe how that plays out.
Correct.
Because we're not sure. It's an experiment.
It's an experiment. It's just one city. It's a small city. It's an important city because it's right along the Gold Coast, right? So that's why it's one to watch, because it really is an innovative idea.
Speaking of innovation, ROI-NJ does an awful lot when it comes to innovation. A lot of articles, a lot of features. Do you believe, as Governor Murphy has argued, that this is an innovation state with huge economic development opportunities around innovation?
Potential, yes. You have a lot of the potential, yes. I mean, you have all the right pieces in place. It's just that going back to the way that the state sort of operates with the home rule, with the politics, I think that you have this sort of clear divide between the people who are globally connected and the people who are hyper-local, and there's no in between.
Do you see the biggest difference between the Christie administration and the Murphy administration as it relates to dealing with the business community is?
That's an interesting one. I unfortunately didn't have as much experience with the Christie administration, so from what I can tell, the business friendliness idea is still there. It's just in a different way.
So stay on that in the time we have left. The economic development incentives, the
Yes.
tax incentives with the Economic Development Authority. We're not going to get into the details of it. Let that play out in the legislature and other places. Overall, do you believe that they've been good for certain urban communities like Camden, Trenton, Jersey City, Newark, et cetera?
They have been, because you need the foundation of these companies to help restart an economy in those places. You can't do it on the backs of small businesses.
So those who say, whether it's in New York with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and others, said, you can't, Amazon, no! Either they're going to, okay, I'm sorry, did I open up Pandora's box?
A little bit, yeah, that goes in so many different...
By the way, scrap that, don't even edit it out, it's my mistake. But that's not what we're talking about
Right.
here.
We're just talking about bigger companies, names that people recognize. It's the same concept as anchor institutions in shopping malls. Why was it necessary to have a Walmart or a Target or whatever at a shopping mall to get that in there?
To attract others.
It's
the same concept.
Anjalee Khemlani, Managing Editor of ROI-NJ. Check her work out and the work of her colleagues, and we thank you for joining us on State of Affairs. Well done. I'm Steve Adubato. Thank you for joining us on this particular edition of State of Affairs. I'm confident we'll see you next week.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Choose New Jersey, the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, Rowan University, Delta Dental of New Jersey, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey.
Hi, I'm Dennis Wilson, President and CEO of Delta Dental of New Jersey. You probably know that visiting your dentist and daily at-home care are necessary for maintaining good oral health. What you might not know is that your oral health is connected to your overall health. Oral health may impact conditions like diabetes, blood disorders, and heart disease. Regular cleanings and checkups allow your dentist to assess your risk and keep you and your smile healthy.